Hi friend, this is Wai Jia and you're listening to Dream Brave. My hope is that this space will strengthen your faith, gird you with courage, and encourage you to take the risks worth taking to propel you into the very best that God has for your life. One of the hardest things we can ever cope with in our lives is loss. Loss of a loved one, a relationship, our health, our job, or a dream we once held dear to our hearts. Yet, so much of our culture tells us that to lead a victorious life is to pick yourself back up and move on immediately. Where is room for grief? How can we appreciate the mountaintops if we've never trudged through the valleys? In this special season, I interview ordinary Christians who've encountered extraordinary obstacles to find light in the dark and strength in despair. For it's in our trials that God promises us the hidden treasures of darkness, riches stored in secret places, that we might know that He is God. My hope is that these stories of setback will inspire you to find hope in your struggles. Be blessed. Hi everyone, today is a very special episode because I have with me a very, very special guest. Susanna is my incredible 76-year-old mother-in-law, better known as Cliff's mom, but to me, she's simply mom. And today I'm so honored to be speaking with her across continents, from hot and wet Tanzania to cold and dry Canada, because her story is one of quiet courage, unwavering faith, and unshakable love. When her family immigrated from Hong Kong to Canada in search of a better future, they couldn't have known the storm that lay ahead. Just 2 years after arriving, her son Cliff, who is now my husband, then only 10 years old, was diagnosed with liver cancer at a routine checkup. And at age 11, he underwent a life-saving liver transplant. Today, decades later, he not only completed an Ironman triathlon at the age of 27 with his whole family cheering him on, but he's now my husband, serving beside me in East Africa and raising our 2 daughters together. My mom's story isn't just about surviving hardship. It's really about trusting God in the dark, persevering for her children's future, and choosing hope when fear was loudest. Even as I'm reading this, you can hear her chuckling and laughing in the background. The first time I ever met Susanna in person was actually, believe it or not, at our wedding in Singapore. And Mom, I don't know if you remember, I won't forget how you cupped my hands in yours and you looked at me and said, Wai Jia, thank you so much for marrying my son. And that moment told me everything I needed to know, that you were not only kind, but you were extraordinary. And since then, Susanna has become like a mother to me. She prays for me, she advises me, and she supports me in ways that have gone far beyond the usual mother-in-law relationship. She's nothing like the stereotype of the scary, crazy Asian mother-in-law. And for that, I'm deeply grateful. In fact, before moving to Canada, Susanna worked as a typist and administrative assistant in Hong Kong long before the days of personal computers. And like many things uncertain about Hong Kong's future after 1997, she and her husband sought a better life abroad and immigrated to Canada, where she quickly started a new life with a new family. So, Mom, thank you so much for agreeing to come on my podcast.
Thank you to have me, Wai Jia, my first time. So it's new for me, but I will enjoy it. Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
I'm really so blessed and so honored to have you. Actually, even before we met officially, when on our wedding day, I actually watched you online because Cliff showed me a documentary of, I think it
Yeah,
was some like Cantonese TV station, like interviewing him on
yeah,
his life journey, and you were on there as well, right?
yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. They interview me like I just like what about Cliff's transplant going. So yeah, so it's from a sick kid hospital actually.
Yeah, from Toronto, right?
Yes, yes,
Wow. So before we actually get into that, I think I remember like before we got married, this was our second wedding ceremony in Canada. Like before we did the ceremony in Canada, I remember you and we went to a cafe. I don't know if you remember, it was Panera Bread. And then I
yeah,
actually
yeah.
asked you this question. I said, oh my goodness, Mom, Like, I've never asked you this, but how was it like being a parent to a child with like a terminal illness? Because that totally blew my mind. Like, I just couldn't imagine how painful or hard that was. How was it like for you?
Oh yes. You can imagine it's hard for any parents to come across this,
Yeah,
especially like we are new, we are in the new in the country, right?
yeah,
So, but by then, actually, be honest, I have no idea what liver transplant was. Okay, it's
right,
new to me. So I didn't think too much. Yeah, I didn't think too much. I just uh, listening to the team, to the sick kid hospital, the team, what they told me, what to do, what prepare. So I just listening because there's no time for me to worry. Of course, I worry, but I didn't really. I don't know. Maybe I have no idea how it is. So maybe that helps, right? I don't know. So I
yeah,
just trust the sick kid hospital.
yeah.
So so yeah, that's it. And then
Wow,
they put us on a waiting list for 6 months. And
wow.
then one day they call me, oh, we got an organ, so you better come to the office, to the hospital right away. So my husband, Cliff's dad, was working in the evening shift, so I was the one to drive to the hospital. Yeah,
Wow.
to have the surgery transplant.
Wow. And how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Was it like crazy?
Um, I stayed in the hospital the whole night. They
Uh-huh.
told me that it was only like 3 hours for the
Oh,
whole surgery, right? But it turned
oh,
out it took more than 3 hours. It took a whole night. So
oh,
I was the only one sitting in the hospital in the waiting room. Every 2 hours, they will talk to me, how's the surgery going on. And by then, I was working. So the next morning, I have to go to work. And my husband came to the hospital. He's staying there, and I went to work.
wow.
So yeah, so it was pretty hard. But I think when you were in there, you have no time, or you don't worry too much because you are already in there. Only the uncertainty, it worry you a lot. But when you get in there, you know you have no way. That is the only way. So you just go out, go. You just have to go through it, right? So that's
Wow.
how I, yeah,
I think
yeah,
this is what amazes me, Mum. Okay, two things. One is that
yeah.
the surgery was indeed very long. I don't like, remember exactly how many hours, but I think Cliff actually told me that it was several hours. Maybe it was closer to like
Yeah.
10 hours or something like that. And I think something that has always amazed me is like, I see this as a characteristic of you, but also of many people in your generation. Like, you are very, very hardy and resilient. Like, you just talk about this as if, like, you know, your son had a cold and then he went to the doctor and it was all okay. And you're still laughing, you know. But
Yeah.
but you know, it really amazes me because I think since the first time I met you, and actually it's almost 13 years already. The first time I met you, I
Okay.
remember telling Cliff, I said, wow, your mom is really amazing. I said she really has this like childlikeness about her. And I think
Mm.
that's what even our kids, like our two girls, they
Mm.
always say, Nine is so young. I don't believe she's 76. She's like a little girl sometimes when she laughs, you know? And I think it's this I really think it's this childlike faith that you have that has put you through so much with so much
Maybe.
simplicity and
Mm.
joy. I think that's very characteristic of you. And in some
Yeah.
way, I see that that's what you have passed down to Cliff. Because I've always wondered,
Yeah.
how come Cliff is so normal and so positive? Like, you know, a lot
Mm.
of kids, as a doctor, right, like myself, I know that
Yeah.
kids with
Mm.
chronic disease, a lot of times they grow up
Mm.
feeling like they
Mm.
have, they were so unfortunate. And maybe they grew up with some like emotional or social hang-ups. Like sometimes
Yeah.
they're very clingy and all that. But Cliff is very like, he's very normal. He's so normal, I tell him that this is abnormal. He's so
yeah,
positive. But when I met you, then I realized, oh, I know why. I understand why he's so
yeah,
positive because like you
yeah.
have just passed that down to him.
Maybe, because sometimes, be honest with you, sometimes I don't believe I'm 76. I'm that old, right? I only, I think I'm only 50 or something like that because I like
Wow.
to try some new things. I
Yeah.
like to adventure. I like to travel, and I
Yeah.
like a lot of other hobby that
Right.
I enjoy. Anything I enjoy. So maybe that helps me out when I got like come across that this is a really like hard for me. But
Yeah.
I can I think I'm not that worried compared with my husband, okay? Compared with, yeah,
Right.
he's more worried than me, but I'm not. And also tell
Yeah.
you something,
Yeah.
when by then my husband, he was laid off, so then it's a financial, right? And plus
Yeah.
Cliff's medical health issue. So
Yeah.
that is a lot of like,
Burden.
hardship,
Yeah.
a burden on us.
Yeah.
uh, I can tell you one thing. After Cliff's surgery, because my office are very pretty close to the hospital, so every day lunch I will go to see Cliff, and then of course we have to have lunch, and then Cliff's dad was there, right? So I
Mhm.
can tell you because we still have money, but we really have to save the money for the future use. Okay,
Yeah.
so our lunch for the whole time when Cliff is staying in the hospital is just a small donut, and then we share one donut and have each one have a coffee for the lunch. That's it, no more. Actually, we
Oh
don't have
my.
to be like that, but we want to make sure we want to save. Okay, so every
Wow.
day was a half donut and a cup of coffee. That is for our lunch.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, but
Wow.
but it's so funny. We didn't feel anything bad or why we are in this situation. No, nothing. So yeah, but sometimes, so now when I look back,
Yeah.
that really helps me. So my heart goes to the poor, like because I go through this, I know how hard it is. Like
Wow.
for if like you don't have enough for money for surviving.
Yeah.
So actually, it's a good experience. I always look at that. Whatever when you look back,
Yeah.
you know that, oh, that is a
Wow.
good experience.
Wow, I've
Yeah,
never heard that story before, Mom, and I don't think Cliff knows it. I think if he knows it, I think he would tear up. Yeah,
yeah,
but that's the incredible thing. I see that when you look back at your story, you have zero self
yeah.
pity. You have no sense of self pity at all. Like you always look back
No,
and you find something good to think about.
yeah. Actually, I appreciate what I have now.
Wow.
Okay, I always appreciate. I
Yeah.
have a roof over my head. I
Yeah.
have food on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have to worry. I
Yeah.
appreciate.
Actually, Mom, that's exactly what I want to ask you about, which is your upbringing. Because I believe your appreciation for life now has so much got to do with how you were born, where you grew up in, like the work that you did in Hong Kong and all that. Can you tell me a little bit about your birth story? Like just your history, so we know like where you come from and how you have this outlook on life, because clearly you did not have like a very easy, comfortable, wealthy life when you're growing up. Clearly
No,
you
no,
faced a
yeah.
lot of difficulties. Yeah, could you tell us a bit about your birth
Sure,
story and how you
sure, no
yeah.
problem. I can share. Actually, you met my mom, right? My
Yeah,
mom,
poor poor,
she
right?
she was a very strong woman.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I kind of a little bit inherited from her.
Oh
My
yeah.
mom, um, when I was little, my mom divorced my father,
Uh-huh.
my biological father,
Right.
uh, in China. So
Oh.
because her marriage is arranged marriage,
Hmm.
okay. So when I was a little, I was born in Hong Kong. My mom had a very hard time. When
Right.
my mom told me, when I was only three. My mom has to be selling things on the street, just like a hawker, something like that. So one
Yeah.
time, both of us, mom and I, we were caught by the police. So,
Oh,
so I was in the police station because it's illegal for selling things on the street without any license, right?
what were you
But the
selling?
police selling, I don't know what she's selling, maybe food or something else, but actually it's
Oh,
illegal because you don't have the
okay.
license.
Right, right.
So, so both of me and my mom, I was only three or two, my mom told me. But when I was in the police station, the policeman was very nice. They saw me as such a little girl, so they bought me food. Okay,
So cute.
because it's a little bit my mom. And then during my very like young age, like
Uh-huh.
before 10
Mhm.
or 7, my mom worked as a nanny in my
Oh,
grand. I was a Catholic by then in
right.
my godmother's parent house.
Mhm.
Okay, and then when they moved to Portugal, then my mom and I, we have to find a place. So my mom worked in a factory, and then later that my mom married my stepfather. Okay,
Oh.
so now my two younger sister and one younger brother, they are my half siblings. Okay,
Oh.
from my stepfather. But my stepfather is very nice. He was very nice to me. So that
Oh.
is part of my history. And then
Wow.
because I was so poor, I never got a proper education.
Wow.
My I only attend a couple years of the evening in English evening school. That's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
So then when I was like 18 or something, I I I just work like any job, sales girl, operator in the hotel, whatever job I find. So I kind of like I I just survive, okay, and
Wow.
then yeah, that is part of my history. So that's why my English is not that good, but I have a very good hobby. It's up to now. I still go to library every two
Oh,
weeks to
wow.
borrow books. I learn
Wow.
English from the library.
Wow.
Okay, so that's why
Wow.
when I came to Canada,
Yeah.
my English was not good, but I can manage it. And then
Wow.
I talk to myself. I only work in the uh like we have in a new country you have if you can have Chinese Chinese office or whatever. I say I know. I like to work in the English speaking environment. So that's why because I worked in the bank before. So once when I came to Canada, it was very cold in February. I
Wow.
settled Jennifer and his sister in the school. The next 3 weeks,
Jennifer
within a
and Cliff,
month,
you
I
mean?
already,
You settled
yeah,
Jennifer and Cliff. Mm-hmm.
yeah, Jennifer and Cliff. Then
Yeah.
I went to look for a job. Within a month,
Wow.
only after 3 weeks, I landed in Canada. I still remember
Wow.
it was very cold.
Yeah.
February in Canada is snow everywhere.
I know.
But
I
so
know.
luckily, I got a job, and then I worked
Wow.
from there till
Wow.
I retired at 67.
Wow. That
Mm-mm.
is incredible, Mom. That's 9 years ago, right? That you retired?
9 years ago, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
My boss is so nice to me. He said, "Oh, Susanna, if you want to stay work, I can create a post for a position for you." I said, "No lah, it's time for me to have my retirement."
Right, right, right. Wow, that's incredible, Mom. I
Yeah,
remember Cliff telling me that the first time he landed in Canada, he actually told me that it was quite traumatizing for him because it was
yeah,
so cold. And now
yeah,
that I've actually lived in Canada for 2 years before, I can really understand like being in such a new environment is actually very shocking to the
yeah,
whole system, right? And even for
yeah,
yourself, like I mean, you grew up, you were basically born and bred in Hong Kong. and for
yeah.
you to make this huge decision to come to Canada, it must have been huge. Like, can you tell me what
Mm,
went through your mind? Because, I mean, I'm sure moving to Canada was not easy at all.
yeah. Okay. Do you want, your question is you want to understand why I moved from Hong Kong to Canada, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The reason is, of course, like I love Hong Kong. Like we have job, both secure, kind of secure job in the working in the bank. We have our own place. But because of the uncertainty of after 1997,
Yeah.
so I talked to my husband. Look, like if our children can have better education in the university, okay,
Mhm.
why not we try to apply for somewhere else? But our problem is I'm not educated, okay, and my husband is only high school, and then we
Oh,
don't. Yeah, I think he didn't finish. He didn't has university. Okay, so after he graduated, like he didn't go to university. He just go to work. Okay,
right,
and we don't have much money.
right.
So, but anyway, we tried. So we went to the Australia ambassador and also go to Canada ambassador. And then we find out, oh, there's a long queue there. Okay, I said,
Right.
okay, we just queue it up and see what happens. So
It's
we
so
so we just joined the people with a long queue, and then
right.
they gave us a application, something like that, some form.
Oh,
So we just fill out the form, and
okay.
then send it back within a month or maybe a couple of weeks. I can't remember too much. We got a big package that they
Wow.
accept our immigration application,
Wow.
because I didn't know by then. Canada government, they need someone to work in the bank. Okay,
Wow.
I don't know. I just went there, just what happens.
Yeah.
So that is how. So we fill up the application form. Without 3 months, we got it back.
Yeah.
You have to go to Canada to land
Right.
within a year.
So they gave
That's
you
it.
only 3 months to move.
Yes, 3 months.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
3 months. After 3 months, we got the reply. Uh, they saying that we accept your application to
Yeah.
immigrate to Canada, but you have to land within 1 year.
Oh, within 1 year. Okay. Wow, that must have been
Yes.
a huge, huge decision that you made.
Yeah.
And actually, I've
Yeah.
always marveled at this because Cliff always told me that by that when you moved to Canada, it was at a routine health
Mm,
checkup, right? That the doctor found that his blood results were not very good, and then they did further investigations, and then they found
yeah.
this adult liver cancer
Yeah.
in a child's body, and at that time it
Yeah.
was secondary to hepatitis B. I think a lot of people in Hong Kong had hepatitis B at that time, and he was one of them.
Yeah.
Then it always amazes me that you guys discovered this after your move to Canada, like shortly after, because I understand
Yeah.
that Canada has a welfare system and definitely
Yeah.
very much more advanced kind of transplant kind of
Yeah.
technology. And I know that his doctor is actually one of the best, even up to now, like worldwide. So all these, I
Yeah.
think, was really like God's miraculous blessings,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. So true.
Um,
So true.
yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's one
It's
question
such
I
a
have.
blessing.
Yeah, it's so true. There's one question I have though. You told me about the donut story that you and dad shared half a donut. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't sound like a silly question, but like I mean if the Canadian government is has looked after like Cliff's transplant and his medications and everything, why did you still feel you had to scrimp and save so much? And you already had a job. Or was it because dad
Yeah.
was laid off?
Yeah, and also because you know that in Canada,
Yeah.
everyone works so hard. After
Yeah.
tax, you don't have a lot. You just got a
Oh,
very little.
that
So
is
because
true.
I think it's Asian. Like we never overspend. We
Yeah.
always make sure that is some have money, reserve money, that
Yeah.
just in
Yeah.
case we still have money, but not too much, because we bought a house, we have to mortgage, all right. So that means
Right.
I think it's most of the Asian will do that. We never overspend what we have. So that's
Yeah.
why we have to count on our pennies.
I can understand the very Asian bit. I think I've inherited that from my
Yeah,
parents as well. Yeah. But it's funny, it's funny that you say that, Mom. I do notice that you are very, like, the first time I met you and Dad, I could tell that you are very thrifty people. Like, you always look for what is good value. Like, when I shop with
yeah,
you at, like, Costco in Canada, all that, I know, I can see that you are someone who's very thrifty, very frugal. And yet, I also see
yeah.
that you have very, very radical hospitality. Like, I always see you go out of your way to, like, spend money for somebody else. Like, if somebody else is in need, like, I also shocked. I mean, when Cliff and I moved out from Canada, we were in Singapore, then in Tanzania. Like, you went to visit our elderly neighbors back in Canada where we stayed, or you would visit like Cliff's friends who had helped us before with a cake or something. And I always felt that you always go the extra mile to, like, say thank you or to bless others. And I wonder, like, how did this come about? Because on one hand, you are so conscious about money, and on the other hand, when it comes to giving, right, I feel like you are just so free-handed. Like, nobody would know that you were a thrifty person if they just judged you by your generosity, because you are so generous with others. How did this come about?
Actually, like, you know what? I really appreciate that I can afford to do that. And also, like, because I gone through hardship, even though I know the people they know they don't need, but doing this just show my appreciation. And so I like to share, okay? For me, it's just share something. Like, if we can afford to do, why not to share?
Mm,
Of course, if I cannot share, I can. But if I can share, why not? Um, I spend
wow.
money. Actually, I'm so glad that I still have I can do it. It's a like just as a, like God's love, sharing.
Right.
You don't understand. Some people, they if they cannot make it, they just cannot make it. Of course, even they make it, they would like to receive people showing their love and appreciation.
I
If
understand.
if I am the other side, I would like to do. People, they care, they
Mm,
show their love to me. If I
wow.
can do this, why not?
Wow. That's
Right?
incredible, Mom.
Why not?
Like, was there somebody, or was there an event that happened in your life that made you so grateful, that kind of shaped who you are today in terms of your generosity? Were you the recipient of somebody's radical generosity as well?
Um, Actually, I can see, like, even though, like, Canada, like, is it's not, the people were like kind of like hardworking and they don't get a lot. Like, I can remember when I worked long time ago, I saw a girl. I was just new in the office. I saw her. We had pay every 2 weeks, okay? And I just noticed this girl. How come the second week before the pay, she never go for lunch? So I
Oh,
asked her, and then she said, "Oh, you know why you asked?" Actually, I don't know. And then later I find out that she has no money. So I lend her the money. Actually,
yeah.
I don't lend. I give her the money. I say, this is you can buy you something to eat. Buy
Wow.
you something to eat. And sometimes they're so pride, they don't take it. And then I say no, because I take her as my daughter or something. She was a young girl. I said,
Yeah.
no, 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 don't stop. Don't be, go get some food. And then later, of course, she accept it. So, and also sometimes I will get cold shoulder. No, no, I don't need this. But that's okay. Sometimes I saw beggars on the street. I gave them money. They refused to take my money.
Oh, I
So,
understand.
so yeah. So that it
Wow.
happened. When I worked in the past years in Canada.
I think I can see that, you know, I think I can see that because of your upbringing, like, you've been through so much in your childhood, that it gives you this very deep empathy for people around you. I think
yeah,
that's something that really moves Cliff and I. And actually, when I look at Cliff's life, I think I can understand why he's the way he is. He's also like that. Like on himself, he will save. Ah, I'm getting emotional now. I think on himself, he will save a lot. He's very thrifty. He's very like he doesn't. He never. He rarely buys anything for himself. But then for other people, he would just spend, and he will spend as if he has a lot of money. But actually, it's his mindset, right? And I think he got it from you very clearly. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. Actually, Mom, one
yeah.
other question I have always wanted to ask you is like throughout this whole process, right? When you were growing up, you went through all this hardship and then you had to deal with Cliff's liver transplant. Like during this whole time when you were sort of, facing all these challenges, did you believe in God at that time? Like, were you Christian, Catholic? Like, what was your spiritual belief? And then later on, when you became Christian, like, how did that happen? Could you tell us about a bit about your spiritual journey?
Okay. When I was little, because like I mentioned that my mom worked as a nanny in my godmother's parents' house. They were Portuguese. Okay,
Right,
so you know
right.
Portuguese is mostly is all Catholic, right? So that's why
Oh,
naturally I was baptized as a Catholic.
right,
Okay, so that's
right.
why I became a Catholic.
Mhm.
So actually, when Cliff was little, he attended Catholic school, Catholic
Ah,
kindergarten.
okay.
Yeah, uh, and then, but for me, I'm very open. I'm
Right.
not. I will say, oh, you don't be a Christian, whatever. So when Cliff become a Christian, I have no rejection or what at all. Okay,
Mm,
but for me, but then I still I don't understand. But after times like now, like when you look back, okay, so then you kind of understand uh that is some actually it's a ranger. It God already planned the path for you. But then I didn't understand. I just go for what happened. I just went through it. I didn't
right.
think too much.
Right. So you're
So
saying
yeah,
that actually when you grew up, like you
yeah,
were sort of Catholic, but it wasn't
yeah,
like a very real relationship. It was just more nominal, like more like
yeah,
practice and sort of like,
yeah,
because I remember like I think 1 year, this was already 11 years ago, like I think 1 year before we
yeah,
went to Uganda, like I think Cliff and I sort of like shared about Christ with you. And then
yeah,
that's when you said the sinner's prayer and you decided to become a Christian. And I think from then on,
yeah,
like we could see like a very significant change. Like you got a Bible, you went to church, and like
yeah,
I think since then, like we even our relationship has sort of changed, right? And
yeah.
like since becoming Christian, right, how do you make sense of all that has happened? Like you mentioned that when you look back, you can see God's hand in it, right?
Yeah.
But also
Mm,
like one thing I wanted to ask is how do you reconcile your faith or what God has done with your current life? Because I know you know that Cliff is still on long term medication. Like he is on immunosuppressants to suppress his immune system so his body doesn't reject the liver. And yet now he's
yeah.
still doing a lot of crazy things. Like we're living in Tanzania, we lived in Uganda before. And how do you reconcile all this? Because I know a lot of, like as a doctor, I've seen parents of kids with chronic illness, they actually, because of their circumstances, become naturally and understandably so, they become more controlling because
Mm,
they are so scared of losing their child. But for you, I
mm-hmm,
can see that you were totally chill, and even when he did the Ironman when he was 27, back then, I mean I still
mm-hmm,
remember this photo I see on your fridge, and that photo is so important to Cliff. It's the whole family, you, dad, his sister, and him, all flew to America to support him. But for me, right, if I am the parent of a kid with chronic illness, I'll probably tell the kid, maybe don't do the Ironman. It's too crazy. Just do a marathon, a half marathon, but you never did that. You always encourage him to do what he wanted to do. So how did you come to that conclusion? Wasn't it hard?
Actually, be honest, is it's so common. Like as a parent, you worry
Yeah,
what with
yeah,
like because what with especially like when he practicing swimming in the lake.
Yeah.
It is by himself. I told him, you
Oh.
better be very careful. If anything goes wrong, no one will save you because you diving in the lake. Who's going to see you? You better be very careful. That's the only worry I make most. Okay, you be careful. Okay, because
Oh.
you see, like when you dive and swim under the water, you know the water in our lake is so cold.
I
What
know, it's
happens if anything
freezing.
goes wrong? No one will see.
Yeah,
And
it's
also
true.
with you recycling, you better be very careful because if you drop or whatever, no one
Yeah.
will see you on the scene. Then you'll be
Yeah.
very you're very in danger. That is
Yeah.
only I already have my advice, but because he's adult, I
Right.
cannot stop him to do. So I better, reminding him to be in
Right.
safe. Okay,
Right.
so they ask me if I worry. Yeah, I do worry, but I know that I can't stop him. So I
Yeah.
just do like be careful.
Yeah.
Okay, because you are adult, you are responsible for
Yeah.
yourself.
I think this is quite radical, Mom. On one hand, like you are very Asian, like, you are the
Yeah,
very typical Asian parent. And
yeah,
yet, on the other hand, actually, you are very radical because on one hand, you care so much for Cliff. And on the other hand, you know all the risks. And on the other hand, you are also willing to let go, which I think is very
you
rare.
have to. You have to. Because
Wow.
I won't stop him. Just like be honest, like if he wants to do anything, adventure, whatever, I say because he's adult now, you are responsible for what you are doing. I just
And
uh remind I just
yeah,
have my concern, of course, but
right.
I will pray for you. that's, that's the only thing I can do. I pray for you. You're in good hands, okay? But you are responding for what you are doing.
I
Yeah,
understand.
that's why, yeah. I think any parents have to let go.
Wow. That is really good advice, actually. That's really good advice. Because now that I'm a parent, I think I can relate to a lot of what you're sharing. I mean, I know Cliff has gone through some crazy times. I know when he was, cycling, he even smashed his teeth, all his teeth before. And then he had to go
Yeah,
for a terrible dental thing. And actually, half his teeth
yeah,
is all fake, even though he has such a beautiful
yeah.
megawatt smile. And I wondered, right? I always joke with people, I say his
Yeah,
smile is so nice, but half of them are fake, the teeth.
yeah.
Um, but mom, like, was there any point in time in Cliff's journey or you as a parent where you were angry with God? Did you ever feel angry with God for what happened?
Actually, be honest with you, I'm not angry with God because
Wow.
I angry with myself sometimes, and
Why?
also I have the point that we are human.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
we are human.
Yeah.
Human is human. Okay, human is
Yeah.
not God. Human is
Right.
human. So
Yeah.
we sometimes are like we cannot control ourselves. We upset, we cry, and
Yeah.
also we enjoy whatever because we are human. And I always believe that when you are in a good time, you cannot catch it. It will pass. Also in the dark moment, it will also pass. It will
Wow.
never stay in the dark moment. It's just like life, ups and down, ups and down. It will not even. Of course, sometimes we enjoy it even. We are joyful, but of course, sometimes we have a bitter time. When the bitter time comes, you just think about that. When you are in a joyful time, you cannot catch it. It still goes. It passes. Same as the dark moment. So
Wow.
I think when I have this in my mind, it helps me a lot. It does help me a lot. It will, no matter how or what, it never lasts. Good time or bad time, it will go, comes and goes. That's it.
Wow. Thanks so much, mom. Sorry, I'm holding back tears because, like, I remember last year when we went through so much, like, before we moved to Africa, we were going through so many challenges. And I remember when I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't sleep at night at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Because of our time difference, actually, it works very well. So whenever I cannot sleep,
Yeah.
you'll always get a
Yeah.
call in the afternoon in Canada.
Yeah.
And I always called you and I said, like, I feel like actually I'm the one who was angry with God. I would say things like, I don't know why this is happening and things like that. And I still remember you always told me like it will pass. Yeah, even when I had my
Yeah.
health
Yeah.
issues and all that. And I think maybe a lot of your positivity, I wonder if it's also because you have actually seen God work miracles for Cliff.
Mm,
I mean
mm,
the fact that he had a terminal illness and somebody died and gave
mhm. Oh
that
yeah.
liver to Cliff, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just think about wow, like the impossibility of it. I mean, when the hospital called you, it was like immediately, right? It said like you had to
Yeah.
come now, now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
That was in the evening. I remember. I just they the hospital give me a device like
right.
whenever they told me don't go anywhere, don't go out town, stay in Toronto,
Oh,
okay, and then be prepared
wow,
anytime when they got the organ, they will call me. So
that's
uh,
crazy.
the one of the reason why the surgery went so long because they have to reduce the size. The
Yeah,
liver,
it's
the
too big.
liver maybe is a adult
Adult, of course.
adult
Yeah,
size. So
yeah.
bigger Cliff is a small
A
kid. So
child.
they have to
Yeah,
reduce it. So that's why
right.
it takes so long.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Hmm.
And mom,
Yeah.
like, what was the? Because my podcast series is Treasures of Darkness, and
Yeah.
I always believe that in the dark, that's when God reveals like a lesson or a
Yeah.
gem to us. Like for you
Hmm.
going through all these dark times, what has been
Hmm.
the treasure that God has shown you or revealed to you?
I always it's so simple for me. I don't take it too complicated. Okay. Whenever like I come across the dark moment, I always have the idea. It's so simple. God is our refuge and strength and ever present help in trouble. So
Wow.
because we are human, of
Mm,
course we have to do our part. Okay, you don't
yeah.
put everything is God's job to but after that it's still out of your hands.
Mm,
Okay, you sometimes you can it's out of your control. Whatever you cannot change the situation. A little bit make it easier for yourself. You change yourself a little bit. Okay, or if you are upset someone, can you just like very simple, you just have think that if you were the other person, how you feel.
mm,
Maybe when you have that kind of thinking, it makes things a little bit easier. Say I
wow.
said something to someone like, oh, they're so upset with me, and then
Mm,
of course I say something that which I don't know, but then if they so upset, then you think if I were the other, I were there, how do I think?
right.
So by doing this, it makes things very easy. If you can change the fact, change yourself a little bit,
Wow.
okay? And also switching. If you are the other side, what do you think? Maybe
Right.
I can't say I'm 100% correct. I may say something silly that I'm
Right.
not aware of, so that upset the other side. So just
Mm,
say if I am the other side, what do I think? So
wow.
after that, you cool down yourself,
Hmm.
then it's a little bit easier.
Wow. Thank you, mom. Thank you. Wow, that's very wise. I think that is like a running theme from me learning today because I just had a conversation with my therapist today, and she was just saying
Yeah.
that it's so important that we realize what is in our control and what is not. And I think that
Mm-mm.
explains a lot of your resilience, that you recognize that, like, I like what you said. It was very simple. It was that you couldn't control that Cliff had cancer. You couldn't
Yeah.
control who the surgeon was or whether there would be a good outcome. But you chose
Yeah.
to change how you thought about it, and which is to let
Yeah.
go, to just put your son into the hands of the surgeons and just take it one day at a time. And it also explains
Yeah.
to me how sometimes I have seen you actually shine remarkably in very difficult situations when people have been rude to you or mistreated you. And I have actually seen and witnessed how you have managed those circumstances. And I think it's because, like you said, you have a very genuine empathy for people. Like you put yourself in other people's shoes. And I wonder whether,
Yeah,
this radical generosity that you had, I actually really wonder whether it was because you were so poor with poor, when you're growing up, but then yet
yeah,
you
yeah.
were sort of, you told me, I think you said that you were like adopted by this Portuguese family. And in a way,
Yeah.
it was like they took you on and they treated you so well. And I feel like that's the
Mm,
kind of generosity that you give to
yeah.
others,
Yes,
right?
so true, so true, so true.
Wow.
So they
Wow.
they really treated me like a princess when I was with
Wow.
them. But after
Wow.
that, it's when they um immigrate to Portugal. Oh,
Right.
then my world is just like the upside down. I become a
Oh.
street kid because my mother has
Oh.
to work in the factory, and I
Oh.
and they didn't she didn't put me in the school, so I was like a street kid
Wow.
until a couple years later. I never attend any school, uh, like a school
Mm.
like popular, regularly go to school. So that's why my math is so poor. I cannot count.
Wow.
I learned English by myself, basically,
Wow.
all through library. I just do the English night class.
Wow.
That's it. Then I work
Wow.
during the day. I work in the factory.
Wow. Mom, that is incredible. Wow. Thank you for sharing all this with me. Yeah, I think it really tells me so much about your resilience. Like even through the ups and downs of life, like this
Yeah,
joy that you have. Like I think the kids love being with you. They talk about you every day, actually. I think they love
yeah,
being with you because they they see that joy in you that is genuine. And I really think that it's born out of this um the hardship that you've gone through, but also the
oh
goodness
yeah,
of God in your life. Like I think like you
yeah,
are someone that I recognize to be someone who's very, very
mm,
grateful. Like every good thing
yeah,
that you have, you always thank God for that. And for that
yeah.
I'm very privileged to witness that. Yeah, maybe if I can end on this note, I would like to ask you, Mom, if you had any advice to someone out there who's going through a very hard time in life, what would you say to that person?
Um, I will say, it's tough, but don't over worry. It's very natural you over worry because uncertainty. You didn't see it, so only worry when you have to deal with it before the hardship or before the worst comes. Don't over worry, but you are prepared for it.
Mm,
Prepare for it, but not over worry, because of uncertainty. It is killing you. Uncertainty.
yeah.
You think, what if? All the negative thinking, it kills you. So
Wow.
when the hardship comes, deal with it. Okay, but before it, don't over worry. Stay there, because I always believe when there is what did they say? Where there is will, there is a way. You will go through it, and
Wow.
because of course, if you are Christian, it helps you more. Okay, it helps you much better to go through all the hardship, but don't don't over worry. It's easy to say, but hard to do. But
Yeah.
I am very good at that. If I cannot do, sometimes of course I do have. I'm human, right? Of course I do have some like worry this, worry that. I Because I can tell you, not 9 out of 10 is a. I would say 7 out of 10. Your worry is over worry. So
Understand.
why you waste your, right? Why you waste your time in worry?
Yeah.
Uh, Use your energy of more positive thinking.
Right. Right. And it reminds me of the verse that you mentioned just now. It goes back to that
Mm.
verse, right? When you said, God is our refuge, He's our ever present help in times of trouble. It reminds me of that because it's like you don't over worry because He's walking with you. And
Oh yeah.
it's very funny. I see so many similarities between you and Cliff because Cliff will not tell me, don't worry, but he will tell me, like, just take it one day at a time. When the moment we landed in Tanzania, it was so hard for us. And every day we go through so many challenges here, whether it's like
Hmm.
water is out, power is out, the car's not working, like so many things you wouldn't
Yeah.
encounter in Canada or Singapore. And then he would always say, it's okay. He'll say the same thing as you. He'll say, take it one day at a time. And
Hmm.
it will not always be like this. Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you for passing that down to him, Mom. Thank you for leaving that legacy through Cliff. and, and thank you for making time for this conversation because I've been
You're so
really, really
welcome.
blessed.
Yeah. I'm so happy
Oh,
be as a guest because you know what, my first time like this, like second times, like
yeah,
many years ago, I got that interview from
yeah,
Toronto, like
yeah.
but
Hospital.
yeah, but I just telling the truth, okay. Especially nowadays,
Yeah,
everything is so uncertainty. If
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to worry, you have you worry a lot, okay.
yeah,
So of course we do have to worry, but we do our best, okay. Like you
mm,
have your children, you make sure they're okay, like
yeah,
but
yeah.
after that we have given into God's hands. But
So
the
true.
first but the first thing you do you do homework, okay. You do the best yourself, that's it.
I like what you said. It reminds me of what another missionary mom told me. She said, you can only prepare, and then after that, you have to let God do the rest. But you do your due
Hmm.
diligence and then
Yeah.
hand over the rest to God. Yeah, so
Yeah.
thank you so much, Mom. I feel like I have felt so honored to know
Hmm.
you over these past 13
Hmm.
years. And I'm so grateful that you shared your story of resilience to so many of us today. So thank you so much, Mom. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for the person you are. Thank you for blessing me with Cliff. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you for your time too.
I hope God willing that our family will reunite again. Hopefully if the Lord
Yeah, yeah,
provides,
sure,
then
sure.
we will see you back in
Yeah, yeah.
Canada one day.
Okay,
Thank
for
you,
sure.
Mom.
Yeah, for sure. I wish you, uh, the girls, you and Cliff all have a good time in
Oh,
Tanzania. And
thank
then
you.
later, when you look back, you say, oh, you know what? Wonderful. Okay. A very
Wow.
good memory
Wow.
for
Thank you,
you,
Mom.
Cliff, and the girls. Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then s- like stay happy, be positive of everything. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mom. You're the
Yeah.
best. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay positive.
Friend, I hope this conversation blessed you. If you know an ordinary Christian with extraordinary faith whom you'd love to hear me interview, or if that person's you, please let me know. Just drop me a note at hello@kitedreams.org. Be blessed.